The number one most timeless marketing principle is probably that understanding that people don't give a shit about your product. No one is walking around thinking like, I'd love to see a good ad right now. Do we have to go and create an entirely new category to compete there? You don't want to sell more of your product? Then like, let's not do marketing then. No one in our industry like has done anything with a sense of humor and is funny. Picture of a guy with like a rope around his neck, and it was like the rope was being cut, and it said like, time to break up with your CPA. Someone messages me after, hey, that example that you used about X was awesome. I'm like, perfect. What you just said is like, that is marketing. Are you kidding me? If 50 years ago you could reach your ideal customers just through content and creative online without having to do anything, that's an incredible opportunity. They're not talking about products, they're not sharing, demo videos, they're just making fun, relatable content. Allison on our team was like writing an email. She was like sitting at her desk like, with her dog and a cup of coffee. I'm like, just take on like a candid photo of you and be like, P.S. Here I am on a cool Tuesday morning. I work out every day, but I have ice cream every night.
Hey guys, it's Ugi here from Content Monk, and today's episode of the B2B show with Ugi is probably one of the most important highlights of the first season. Today as a guest we have one and only Dave Gerhardt, CEO of Exit 5, probably one of the biggest B2B marketing experts out there. Dave is one of the first ambassadors of the founder brand, and we talk about many different things, from what makes a perfect storytelling in B2B, how to make it, what are the frameworks, how to write winning copy, why your product is not for everyone, how to create a narrative and message in the playbook, and what are the growth and marketing strategies for the future of B2B marketing in the AI era, how to stand out, and a much more interesting topics that we covered. So sit tight and enjoy, because for me personally, I love all episodes, but this one was one of the best, and also the first time that I had a chance to meet one of the greatest people in the B2B world. So enjoy. Marketing has gone through a lot of shifts in the last, I would say, 15 years, and a lot of trends, keep coming and going, right? And the playbooks that we are doing today, the playbooks that we used to do like 10 years ago didn't work 5 years ago. The playbooks that used to work like 2 or 3 years ago do not work today. So tell me, like, what are some of the timeless marketing principles that used to work like hundreds of years ago and that will work for 100 more years?
I think the number one most timeless marketing principle is probably that understanding that people don't give a shit about your product. They care about themselves, right? No one is walking around thinking like, I'd love to see a good ad right now, or, I'd love to be interrupted by something. And I think getting attention is one part of marketing, and there are right and wrong ways, in my opinion, to get that attention. But I think really having a deep understanding of who are you trying to sell to, what makes them tick, what are the things they care about, how can you talk to them in their language, how can you get them to care, how can you get them to think about improving themselves. Most of us, even if we don't admit it, we are selfish. We're humans. We're selfishly wired. We're wired to be around each other, to seek shelter, to have egos, to feel fragile, to want to impress people. There's all of these kind of core emotional benefits, and I think that's where I would probably start if I wasn't able to like pick a tactic or a tool or a channel. It's like, okay, how can I get this person to feel something so I can then tell them about the product and how we solve their problem and make their life better in some way.
Which probably brings us, I would say, to narrative, positioning, and messaging, right? Which can be the root cause of all problems in any B2B organization. Or if, like, done correctly, it can be probably one of the main reasons why something works, or while they are growing so big. So how do you approach these three things?
I think it's helpful to not even try to be a B2B marketer in this sense, and just think about what makes a great story, what makes a compelling story, right? I've been reading Harry Potter with my kids, and just the story arc is amazing. And so, understanding the principles of storytelling, I think a lot of times we get caught up in like the And I love all these resources and I rely on them. I'm not saying this in a negative way. What comes up in the Exit 5 community is, hey, I need to get better at positioning. It's like, read this book from April Dunford, or read Story Brand, or read my thing, or use this framework, or here's this template. And it's so often when in my life, in my businesses or what I'm working on, when we've gotten to a good story, it's very rarely from like, we had this like Google Doc template and we walked through the whole exercise. It's very much like, no, we deeply understand the customer. We deeply understand the problem. You become obsessed with solving that problem. You become obsessed with the customer and that pain. And then you're out on a walk one day, you just have this creative idea about how you're gonna share that story, and it becomes 2 or 3 lines of copy. And like for Exit 5, it's been this concept of like, no one goes to school for B2B marketing. At Drift, when I worked there was it was like we made lead forms into this villain. You can argue about whether that's right or wrong today. It's been a long time, right? But that was creative storytelling to make lead forms this villain, and no forms kind of became the movement that the company rallied around. And so all of the positioning docs and decks and strategy templates and briefs in the world are not as concise as like no forms as a slogan and as a movement to like rally the messaging around. And so I think that the more simple you can distill that message down, the better. The best resource I've ever seen on this is a book called The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs by this guy Carmine Gella. And if you've never like taken notes and watched like the Steve Jobs like 2007 Apple, when he first did the iPhone keynote, it's amazing. Just how intentional every word was, but how simple it was, is an excellent lesson in storytelling. So I would start there.
How would you define a good story?
Probably lots of ways. I'm just trying to think about for me, like which books do I finish? A good story is one that keeps me interested. A good story is one that keeps you interested, keeps you engaged, right? Okay, so what makes it interesting? What keeps you engaged? Probably some type of there's some type of pain, some type of friction. There's kind of some before and after, maybe some transformation. There's some type of tension. There's some type of conflict. Maybe there's a hero. Maybe there's a good guy and a bad guy. Maybe there's some type of mystery or intrigue. I think those are all ingredients that could be pulled on to craft your story. I don't think there's one way.
Let's go one step back, right? Uh, if the company is in a very crowded category, right? The crowded market, where we have a lot of Me Too's popping every single week. Uh, what would be your approach? Is it more to focus on the existing category or try to narrow down and be X for Y and try to kind of define the little subcategory in a bigger space? How would you approach that? Or to try and catch as much demand as possible from the existing one?
I think I don't have a strong opinion on this. I think it's funny because there's been a lot of people over the years who get really hot and bothered and get in arguments online about creating a category or not. I think that a lot of companies tried to do it in tech and didn't do it successfully, and there kind of became this line of thinking that like that was the only way to do it, right? And I think this is where context matters a lot. If you and me want to start a Riverside, if we want to start a podcast recording service and it's a competitor to Riverside, right? Do we have to go and create an entirely new category to compete there, or could we be happy? This is the part I've never understood about it. Could if Dave and Oogie were happy building a nice, small, profitable $2 to $3 million a year SaaS business, and we're like, yeah, we're like Riverside, but like a little bit cheaper, and I don't know, our color is green. Wouldn't that work? Wouldn't that be successful for us, for you and me? Like if we're happy with that, right? And so I think on the other side of things, I think that we have a lot of founders, if you raise VC dollars, you have to chase this big outcome. And so you have to sell this really big vision and you have to try to come up with a category that can be as big as, CRM or something like that. And I think that's really hard, right? Because there are so many copycat products. There are so many similar things today. And even if you look at the chatter online, even if something is new, especially I see this in like MarTech or sales tech, right? everyone just starts rolling their eyes because they're like, oh, great, another vendor has another name of something, another new acronym, right? And so those are all to me like objections in the market that you'd have to address head on. And I think that probably to truly create a new category, you have to be that like 1% founder with where you're not like starting a company and then trying to create a category. You're starting the company because you fundamentally have that vision and the company is being built because it is completely different from the beginning. And so you can't like be building your podcasting app and then being like, hey, marketing guy, like come up with our category. It's like, no, because the design for that category has to be fundamentally architected around the product. What is the product? What is our way of doing things? What is complete, ChatGPT is giving us a completely new way to search for things online. They weren't trying to, you know, there wasn't like marketing spin that was rethought from the ground up. So I think that's where a lot of that stuff gets messed up. I also think we try to just stick too much to like something that seems good. Like it seems good to be the only. We want to be the first or the only. I think there's a huge value in being different, and putting your perspective on the market. But that has to start with the product vision. That's not a marketing spin thing, right? Marketing can help you get in there and deeply understand customers, and we're going to build this together. And we're going to have beta customers, and this doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's like we have this idea for Summit. We got 5 customers. Wow, they're using it. And they're telling us that this is a whole new way. They've never done it this way before. Like,
So tell me, we have our narrative, we have our positioning, our story. Now it's time to choose the goals and to choose the strategy to, you know, reach those milestones, quarterly milestones, yearly or whatever. So how do you approach that phase?
I think it starts and ends with it should start and end with sales. Like the goal should be like we want to sell more stuff, right? And I think in our world, a lot of this gets tricky and muddy because a lot of times it's like, well, I'm working with a software company. At least that's my experience. And the product is not ready yet. So we kind of want to start talking about it, but we're not ready to sell yet. And so therefore you can't measure marketing on just direct sales. And there's a lot of nonsense there. And I think this is where we can learn from like, I think the best, I love talking about marketing with a friend of mine who's like a small business owner, like my accountant, because it's like, they don't think about attribution and MQLs and lead scoring. It's like, I want to get more clients. And I think that's important. I think you need to understand B2B and it is complex and it's different. But I think like the smartest people you talk to, they make things seem simple. Like let's root everything in being simple. And so sure, you don't want to sell more of your product, then like let's not do marketing then. You don't have to do that. Just you don't have to do it. It's fine. It's not for everybody, right? But if you're like, okay, we got this product, we want to sell it, then we're gonna use marketing. Okay. It's first principles. All right. So then how are we gonna do marketing? Well, this is the fun part is let's evaluate the market. Let's look around and let's see, okay, we're building a, AI native CRM, a new way of doing a CRM. Okay, great. Let's look at all the who is the person we're trying to sell that to, right? So like clearly defining that person, not to start, not 10 different personas, not 10 different ICPs. Like let's focus in on one. Let's find one use case, one pocket of customers that we can really nail this for. Because it's always going to be easier to add on multiple personas as you go. And so I think like let's find that one specific avatar, that's one specific person. And then then I want to like look at the market and see what other products, who has their attention, who are they selling stuff to, right? Of those competitors, like how are they doing marketing? Oh, they're all doing events, they're all doing SEO, they're all doing ads, they're all doing, they all go to these podcasts, they all go to these events, they're all sponsoring these podcasts. Okay, well, are we going to spend all of our money and try to like outspend them on all those channels? Probably not. We probably need like a wedge. Like we need some way to start. And so if I'm starting a new company and I'm like, yeah, my biggest competitor is Salesforce and they're advertising on all the top podcasts, then like, let's not go play on that channel. But I think ultimately like this is about finding the gaps and understanding that marketing is a game of attention. And so where are the channels? And so actually, you know what? No one in our industry like has done anything with a sense of humor and is funny and is making short form video. And so like, okay, we sell to HR. We're going to start trying to make HR, we're going to start trying to make like entertaining, educational content for HR people. That's one angle, right? Or let's say that like, okay, we do want to go to the event. Good to see you. We do want to go to the event that all of our competitors are at. We do want to go to SaaStr, right? But we're not going to get a booth like everybody else. We want to try to get it. We're going to do something completely different, right? Actually, we found out that like Tuesday morning, um, no one's doing a breakfast, or our booth is going to be different. Like it's literally just trying to find the gaps. I want to try to find the opportunities as opposed to trying to compete in all the same channels. And then lastly, I think really having a bunch of ideas and hypothesis, but like committing to one or two channels. I think if you look back at any company that gains initial traction, it's almost always like one or two things. It's not a little bit of TikTok, a little bit of YouTube, a little bit of email, a little bit of ads. It's those things happen over time, but it's like one clear channel that you found and you have kind of, top topic market audience fit. And that's where you're going to start.
Yeah, but like in most cases, I would say companies would be in a position where they have a lot of competitors who are present on many different channels at once, right? And getting that attention on just like a one channel, such as, for example, I don't know, LinkedIn, might not be, sufficient for getting into the, consideration set of their buyers. So like what's that fix over there? Like how do you, is there
Well,
like
there's no fix. That's the game you have to play.
Hey guys, just a real quick, sorry for interrupting the episode. Did you ever feel overwhelmed with the amount of low quality and crappy content that you find on Google and LinkedIn? Well, B2B Vault, the producers of this episode, solve that problem. B2B Vault is a database of hundreds and hundreds of expert level insights and articles written by 300 plus B2B marketing experts. And B2B Vault monitors hundreds of websites every single week to uncover new trends and new articles, so you are the first to learn the new trends, insights, and playbooks from the best B2B marketing minds. And every Monday morning, we send out a newsletter with a few most important reads every B2B marketer should read at the start of their week to make sure that you hit your quota and get more deals in the pipeline. So, just very quickly, if you're interested in this, go to the b2bvault.com/newsletter and join thousands of other B2B marketers in our Monday newsletter. See you there.
If I'm saying like, okay, all my customers are on LinkedIn, all my competitors are on LinkedIn, we're all saying the same thing, then that's the problem to go solve. Then like, that is why creative matters. That is why the brand stuff matters. That is why having a different story and a hook and an offer matters. It could come in any form. It could come in like, we have an idea for a creative ad concept and we're selling. I saw one for like accounting software once, and it was like a picture of a guy with like a rope around his neck, and it was like the rope was being cut, and it said like, time to break up with your CPA. And it's like, that was a memorable ad. I don't know if it worked, right? But it's like, how do we get in that conversation? That's where the art of like coming up with a story, finding that pain point, finding that value prop, finding a way to like pitch your story in a way that's going to interrupt the feed.
Which brings us now to something I also wanted to ask you. Feedback loops. How do you know that the story or the content that you create or anything else, any tactic that you do, uh, is working, considering that the buying, journey might be very, very long?
Well, I think the ultimate measure is sales, right? And that's not going to be direct, but that might take time. And so that would be like how I'd want to measure this at the end of the day, right? But in the short term, if we work on our story, and the story doesn't come in the form of like, here's our story, and then you hit publish and people are like, yay. It's like, here is the story, and we're going to, we believe that our customers are on LinkedIn or they're on TikTok or whatever. We're going to start creating content. We're going to start distributing this story into the world via like social media, short form content of some sort, right? Or it could be your CEO gets invited to speak at a startup demo day. and we're going to, her presentation is going to be it's going to be, we're going to weave messages from this story into her presentation. And after the event, 3 people come up to her and they tell her, like, that story, like, I totally feel that pain. That resonated with me. And I am the customer, right? That's not like a number in a spreadsheet, but that's kind of a feeling. It's like being a comedian and you're testing out new content. You go to a bunch of different clubs, you test out which stories, you tell jokes or you're around your friends. And I'm sure we all have stories and anecdotes and examples. Like I do it all the time. If I'm hosting a webinar and I use an example to highlight something and I see the chat like react or someone messages me after, hey, that example that you used about X was awesome. I'm like, perfect. That's the feedback. That's what I need. That's what I'm looking for. It's that. Okay, it's about a little bit. It's not perfect, but it's a signal. That's one example. The signal could also come in other forms. It could be, I know when I write about this topic on LinkedIn or social media, the response is different than it is from when I write about something else. And so therefore this topic is something I should go deeper on. This topic is landing. And in the early days, that could be like no one's ever commented on your post, and today you got 3 comments, right? Or like I'm sure you feel this. Like you have a podcast, you're putting out content. You did a webinar with us a couple weeks ago. It's like I'm sure you got a couple DMs from people after that, and they're like, "Okay, cool. Like that thing that I talked about, like I showed that N8N workflow thing, like that resonated with people." That's a seed for then you to be like, "I should go create more content around this because I think it would be valuable." It's that same thing, but just extrapolated out for a company.
After this session that we had in Exit 5 on like AI workflows, like literally that day and like a few days after, my inbox on LinkedIn was like flooded with messages like, "Hey, Ugi, like what a great workflow! Like your session was great. I voted for you." I think I had like 150 plus messages, and I know in those like 2 or 3 days I got like 200 or so connection requests on LinkedIn. So yeah, I guess definitely when you're doing something that people love, you definitely you can't you cannot unnotice that, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Tell me, Dave.
sure, and that way, I want to keep going on that because I think what you just said is like that is marketing, right? But it's like there's no framework there. There's nothing
Yeah,
complicated there. It's like you prepared something. Now, granted, like let's reverse engineer that. Like you got asked to speak on this webinar. So that's just like back to your question about like, where would you start? Like that would assume that like you're the founder of this company and you could get on a webinar. Okay, well maybe that's a good way to reach it. Turns out for you, good way to reach your people is to work with people like Exit 5. It's like you had an idea that was relevant to our audience. We had the audience. You got to speak and present. Now you could go and create. You're like, oh wow, I have a million ideas of what I could do for my business around AI and workflow of automation because I learned that on this thing, right? The same would be true if you sold, if you sold the type of a snack. It didn't have to be enterprise software. It's the same thing. It's like I gave out samples of this thing to people and they liked it and they told me they want more of it. And now I'm going to go figure out how to make more of it.
exactly. Tell me, I would say like that most of companies and marketeers out there are under constant pressure of delivering results quickly. So how do you balance long-term plays and short-term gains?
Yeah, it's a hard it's a hard question. And I think a lot of times there's no perfect answer. I don't have a pithy answer. It's one of those human nature things that's hard. It's like how do you like I work out every day, but I have ice cream every night. Those are those are conflicting things, but humans are capable of doing both. And so I think you have to be able to understand what are what are first of all, what are the short term and long term goals, right? And so short term usually means like we need to sell some stuff today because we gotta keep the lights on a little bit. And I think this is where even though we're talking about B2B, it's helpful to just think more like a brick and mortar business or a small business. It's like they might not have 24 months to like prove this concept out. It's like we gotta sell some burritos like now.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I
exactly.
think a lot of the short term and long term things come from like, okay, well, I'm working at a venture backed startup. and we got $10 million in the bank. And so it's not super important for me to like sell 10 customers today. And that's like, that's why that stuff is hard to think about and hard to measure. But like, if you and me started, our burrito stand and it's like, yeah, dude, we need to make money. We need to sell some of these things so we can like buy more ingredients, so we can buy more, buy another food truck, so we can service more people. Like you have to do the short term stuff. Short term is sales. And so I think a lot of times when we conflate short term and long term, we think that there's a disconnect between long term means brand and short term means sales. And it's like, no, because long term means hopefully you have a brand. And then if more people know about our food truck over time, then they're just gonna show up to it without us having to like spend money to advertise and get them to go there. So I think you got to be able to do both. I think roughly probably thinking in the terms of like 75% of your efforts are focused on today and 25% are focused on, future, or 70-30. But I also think this questioning comes up a lot, also assumes that short term equals bad and short term is going to hurt you in the long run. And I think that's also false. It's like all the things we're doing today should help us build our brand so that after 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, people know they know our reputation. They're going to come to us. It doesn't have to be this negative thing that short term equals bad. And those are going to hurt you for in the long run.
If you're about like to join uh, some software company right now as a CMO, VP of marketing, like whatever, like where would you start? Like what are the tactics or the playbooks that you would try to implement right away?
Content and social, and social meaning content. I think that it's the most unbelievable marketing channel. It's like you can literally you can reach your customers directly online, and you can do it with nothing but your brain and your creativity, and it actually doesn't cost $1. You could start a TikTok account or an Instagram account or a podcast or YouTube Shorts, and you could make interesting content about your topic. And it's so funny that people in our industry, they love to like, for some reason, they hate on like Gary Vee's lessons and playbook, maybe because of his delivery. But it's like, if you just take that out, it's like, are you kidding me? If 50 years ago you could reach your ideal customers just through content and creative online without having to do anything, that's an incredible opportunity. And so that's where I would start. And then in B2B, the content specifically that I think that can work is um, education. I think people want to know how to be better and do better at their jobs. And so whether you're in HR or accounting or sales or finance or marketing, how can we help those people do better at work? And then there's lots of ways within there. It can be entertaining, it can be educational, it can be useful, it can be funny. Um, if you look at somebody like corporate bro or corporate Natalie, those two are hilarious. They make amazing videos and content about like work life, work culture, and that they're the perfect people to now like launch a product or have something to sell to, or they should be paid however $1 million a year by Salesforce to like promote their product, because they have the audience. They have the audience of salespeople, of knowledge workers, of sales and marketing people, of in-office people, and they have their attention and they have their interest. And they've done it because they're not talking about products, they're not sharing, demo videos. They're just making fun, relatable content. Now that's really hard. Not everybody is funny like that. And so then if we can't be funny like that in-house, that's cringy, then let's take a different approach. And but I think leading with the facts and being useful and specific, like for you, right? For you to grow your business, like I don't think you have to make cute, funny videos. You could win by being like, I just share like really practical stuff, useful stuff for marketers. It's very specific. It's very tactical. Um, look at that guy. There's a guy on YouTube, Greg Eisenberg. He has this like startup ideas podcast, and he literally just has people on, and they just do what you did. They just like he hosts it, and then they demo their like N8N workflow, and it's like every video goes nuts because people want that type of content right now. It's not crazy. It's not crazy editing. It's not very funny. He's actually pretty dry, but it's perfectly useful for that audience. Like that's where I would start.
It's funny you were saying all of this. I think recently, a few weeks back, I read somewhere from someone, I don't remember who exactly, but basically I'm paraphrasing like, and I guess this can also be included in that timeless marketing principles list. Like basically, our job as marketeers is to make our ICP like succeed at their work, or get whatever they want to get, even before buying from us. So that's definitely on point. Tell me, um, for all these years that I'm following you, you're talking a lot about copywriting. And we both agree that copywriting is probably one of the most important skills any marketeer can learn. So then, like, what are some, besides the, I would say, first sentence, second sentence we all know about, what are some like copywriting principles we all know about and we learned from you, but what are some other like copywriting principles you consciously or subconsciously use in your daily work whenever you're writing something?
I think one of them is always like, and this is like if I'm writing, whether I'm writing an email to my kids' school or I'm sending an email for work, like I think always trying to convey the big idea in like the first one or two sentences of whatever you're writing. Cause I think we're just wired to like, if it's like, hey Dave, as you know, da 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 da, like our brain's just like, what is this about? Like we want the frame, we want the context. I think that make also it's a good exercise because it's like the headline, we want to know what's in it. And I think you can do that with interest and intrigue and curiosity, or you can just be fact based. But even today, we were looking at our newsletter that we send out with our team, and I kind of went through it and just shared some feedback on like the reader experience. And I suggested like we've been writing the newsletter, and it's basically like each week in the newsletter we share a workflow or something that a marketer did. And my feedback was like it's good, but it was too like storytelling when I wanted to have like I think we should have like a two or three lines up front that's like, hey, in this edition of the newsletter, we're going to tell you about Jillian. Jillian is the content marketing manager at User Evidence, and she had this interesting play where she ran a survey and got 600 responses, and here's how she did it. Right? I like that, like like that frame up front. Like I'm going to tell you what this is about. And so I think really honing in on like it's not just about being direct and getting to the point, but having that hook and being able to read something in the first one or two lines and get a sense for what this is about. I think that formatting is really underrated as a copywriting tool. And, people like to like shit on like the LinkedIn bros for like the broetry, like line, 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 line. But there is something to that in that it's very easy to read. It is very easy to follow. And ultimately, like, I don't care if everybody does that. I care if like, did you read my message? I get you to read it. And so maybe you don't have to do that. Maybe you don't have to do that, but I just think it's about taking an eye and like, you're going to write an email to a client or someone you work with. I think taking time to really think about the formatting um, matters. I also really like, I think one CTA is really important. I think a lot of times when we write something, we want to be like, okay, check out this thing. And then also next week we're doing this thing. And then also next week we're doing this is like, that you'll be way more effective if we're going to send like one email. Like the most effective email we send is like a webinar invite email, and we have our team. It's like, don't put any other links in that email. There's one link in that email, and that is to register for the webinar, if that's the goal, right? Have one specific purpose. And I also still really love like the PS. I've always loved using the PS, and it's like, Dave, PS. And I use the PS to either like reiterate something. So let's just say I told you about like, I'm sending you an email because I want to pitch you on joining our community. And then I might use the PS to be like, by the way, this week alone, 23 new members from 6 different countries joined. It's just a way of like, it kind of breaks the pattern, and it's like a way to get another message in. Or, well, this is another copywriting tip, but it could be or. Um, I love using like personal anecdotes and stories in the copy to make it more readable, more believable, more authentic. So as an example, Allison on our team was like writing an email to send to people to our event to like let them know that we're getting excited, and she's excited and we'll see you soon. And we had a bunch of important updates. And I was like, just take a candid photo of like she was like sitting at her desk like with her dog and a cup of coffee. I was like, just take out like a candid photo of you and be like, P.S. Here I am on a cool Tuesday morning in, North Carolina. I did yoga this morning, and now I'm working on this email that I had to get out, and then I'm gonna go for a run with my dog later, right? That has nothing to do with selling anything, but it's more about being like, "Oh, this came from a person. This is a real, like, there's something about making it authentic.
Tell me, I have two of your, I would say, principles or sentences over here, very short, that I would like you to elaborate on them a little bit more. I wanted to prepare like these kind of, bags, photos, whatever it is, but
Yeah.
kind of thought of that at a very last moment. Okay, so here goes the first. Marketing is creativity in storytelling.
Did I say that?
Yep, you did on one podcast, I think,
I said
2
that?
months
You sure
ago,
about that?
something like that.
Who did that?
Yep,
Who found that?
absolutely.
Your researchers? No, there's no way I said that.
My researchers. Yeah, you said that. I actually wanted to,
Uh,
I listened to the audio myself. Yeah.
okay, okay.
I think it was on some kind
Marketing
of
is
a
creative
LinkedIn
in
live
storytelling.
show or
Yeah.
something like that.
Marketing is creative in storytelling. I would say it goes back to what we said earlier that I think storytelling is one of the key ingredients of successful marketing. But everyone was telling stories, right? Everyone's pumping out content. Everyone's trying to say something. And so the wedge is to like, what is our angle? Like the variable for success there is going to be the creativity. Can we say it in a more creative way? You ever see somebody write something and it's a thought you've had for years, but damn it, they said it in a better way. They said it more concisely. They said it in a pithier way. It's like that's I think that's what that means.
The second one, branding is the last mode.
Yeah, branding, I would say that probably brand. I think when I talk about brand sometimes it what it means in my head is not like the brand colors and the font and that stuff. It's like the reputation of that person or of that business. Oh, like that's his brand, that's her brand, that's on brand. And I think the last moat is like because I say it's the last moat it's because there are so many there's so many copycat products today. There's so much competition. And so if there are 5 accounting softwares that I could use for my business, I'm either going to buy like the legacy one that's always been around because if I buy that, like I'm probably not going to get fired for buying that one, right? Or I can buy if I wanna take a chance, I could be like, "You know what, though? Like, there's kind of this new accounting software that I've seen, and, like, this is really weird, but the CEO has, like, a is really kinda quirky, and, like, she writes really interesting stuff on LinkedIn. I kinda like her, and then the website is different, and the brand is different, and their tone is different. They don't feel like QuickBooks." And you're like, "I'm gonna use that." And I think that it's the last it's one of the last, available differentiators, right? Why did not to cite this example on a marketing podcast because everyone already has, but it's that's why like that liquid death as an example works really well because you're literally just selling water, but in a more creative and funny and interesting way.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me one of the last questions that I have for you before we wrap up. Um, from one father to another father, what is the best advice you can give me to become a better father?
I'd say uh, take your take your fitness and health really seriously because I think the ability to be active and to be on the go and to say yes to everything and okay, they want to go do this now. Go, 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 go. Like, okay, they want to play catch. They want to go for a run. They want to go outside. They want to go to the park. Like, I think there's I think it's very easy to kind of be lethargic and not be able to do it. And so I think out of all the things that you could possibly control, and there's a lot of probably philosophical advice, but I'm trying to pick one that's very actionable. I think that's one that continues to pay off for me. It's just like, I'm 30 years older than him, and I feel like I have more energy and I can keep up, and I think that's an important thing.
How do you win at the game called life? What is that winning for you?
I don't know. I'll tell you when I get there. I think well, I've spent a lot of time contemplating this. I think as you get to a certain point in your life, you do. My perspective on it is I think the purpose is to I see my purpose as building a family, like replicating your people, your unit. I think we're animals. We want to be around our unit, our pack. We want to hang out with each other. And so I've kind of just simplified it down to like I think the purpose is for us to live life and enjoy life together and it's a gift. And we're happy to be here and lucky to be here. And however long that time is, like the ability to hang out, just live life together is, I think for me, it's family has given me the purpose and made the like man's search for meaning super clear. And it's also really helped me. I think for a while I was like, is this it? Is this it? Am I going to talk about B2B marketing until I die? Is this it?
I love
And
that. I
now
love.
like I'm so comfortable with that because I'm like I love doing it. I do love marketing, but it's a business to me. It's a means to an end to allow, it's an outlet to like, yeah, I'm not a plumber, I'm not an accountant. Turns out I'm good at marketing and helping businesses with marketing. And so like that's kind of where I spend my time with work so I can make money to buy food for my family. It's like the same, it's like the very basic, like I try to simplify it down to that. And that's been really helpful.
I love that. I love that. Okay, Dave. Before we go, very quickly, where do you see marketing in the next 2, 3, or 5 years? What are your insights from your own experience and all the data that you have as a founder of probably like the biggest marketing community? What do you predict?
Yeah. I mean, the obvious answer is AI. Like, I think that that's super real to me. I think there's a lot of hype about it, but I do think there's a lot of hype about the internet. I think we're at the it's cool because this is the first real one that I have enough. I'm old enough to have a little bit of history on it. Like a lot of the other trends before, like we were too young and stuff, but now it's like, oh yeah, like I have memory. I know what 1999 to I wasn't working, there's other people that were working in like .com startups and stuff then, but I think the AI stuff is really I do believe it is gonna change business, it is gonna change sales and marketing and all those things. I think a lot is gonna change there. I don't think those things are gonna go away though in 2 to 3 to 5 years. I think just we humans are what we hear in this world, in the tech podcast marketing world, is like this tiny sliver of like the 1% of like what's reality. And I think most people are still slow to adopt it. Like I actually saw in somebody's email today, I saw that in September, AOL is like, they're ripping out of dial-up internet from the last remaining people, and there's still 175,000 people that have dial-up internet somewhere.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, and who knows if that's true or not? I'm just riffing on this, right? But I think so. I think overall things are going to be slower to like change, but I do think that the future of marketing is. I think it's the take I'm riffing on and kind of taking is that I think what we're getting access to is like if we were marketers in 1999, 2000, and we are about to get access to like the internet and how digital marketing kind of like brought a new wave of stuff. Like I kind of think that's where things are at. And but what's also interesting to pair with that though is I think that, and this is not an original thought of mine, but something I totally agree with, and we felt it in our business. I think that on the same side of that, I think that real people things are also going to really matter a lot. And so I think you're going to like use AI to automate and run your business and ask ChatGPT questions. But I think, like I talked about being a pack and being our family, I think we're all humans and we're wired to like want to be around each other and connect with each other. And so I think I heard Casey Neistat talking about how like analog is going to be huge and still be huge. And it's like buying old video games, and the trend among like Gen Z is is like taking photos with like disposable cameras and using filters that look like old video cameras. And I think and we've seen events become such a huge thing in our business. People want to hang out. And so I think I would be betting on both of those things if I could hedge it in some way. It's like real people, real connection, in-person stuff. That's going to be more important than ever. Also, AI is coming and it's happening and it's real. And if I was in marketing right now, I would be leaning into AI as much as I can. I know there's a lot of people who want to go against it. I think you can come up with your creative take to do it, but there's so many practical use cases that are really tough to argue with. I know that a lot of people are concerned about, you're gonna rot your brain out and you're not gonna think for yourself anymore. But it's like, okay, but like I just did an hour call with a customer and like instantly after that call in Slack were like this perfect list of notes and action items and follow-ups that like nobody had to do. And so there's just little examples like that that I think have me bullish about what it means. And if I was a marketer, I would be leaning into the stuff that you're leaning into and talking about and finding new ways to use these tools, because I still think that even though we're all going to have access to these tools, like here's a good example. everybody's making videos with like VO3, right? It turns out it's not that easy. And you still have to be funny and you still have to have a funny concept and you still have to be creative. Like you can't just write a prompt and magically like now you're funny. You have to have a gut instinct for like, okay, what would be a funny little ad to make for our business? And but I think there's value in leaning in trying to figure out these tools right now and how AI could help in your work for sure.
I think like the biggest problem we all have is like tactics and people out there is that like whenever they see a new tactic, they think like the results are going to come, immediately, like tomorrow, like that's their, new shiny thing that's going to silver bullet or like whatever. But in reality, like everything is the same,
Yeah.
like everything works as long as you're like, as long as you go back to the basics. And that's why I like started with these timeless principles. Like if you have a good story, if you have a good offer, if people trust you, like everything that you do it basically like work in this case or another.
What you just said though is I think people need to remember that that's not just like a marketing thing, right? That's just human. That is how humans are. It is it's a reason why every month, every year, there's a new diet out. There's a new workout system out. There's a new whatever. There's a new way to cook your food. There's a new faster way to do your laundry. There's a new it's human nature. So I think that a lot of people argue online about like marketing is just a new thing or this, that. It's like, this is just people, man. This is how it's always been. We're always going to do that. We're always going to want we're always going to want the shortest answer. And I think it's important to have discussions like this where it's like, oh, there's actually a lot of nuance, but here's how we'd solve this with first principles, right?
Yep, that's great. That's great. Dave, thank you very much once again for being on the pod.
Thank you for having me. Good luck with all of your fame and success that you have
Thanks.
from LinkedIn.
Thanks.